Fallout. Chapter 8. Wonder to Myself. The ride toward Seattle was one of constant drizzling rain and dense fog and cloud cover. I knew we were getting close when I saw the outline of the Space Needle. Took out a rifle and looked through the scope. Could see the mist and condensation forming on the glass at the top of the Space Needle. And once again, there was a train station that we pulled into, and there was an older man with white hair leaning on a pine walking stick. He wore a gray shirt and blue overalls with beige work boots on. He waved as we walked off the train. The air smelled different. It smelled of farming and hard work. "Why, hello there, travelers. My name is Harry. Welcome to the state of Washington. Are you folks hungry? I have a blueberry pie in the oven and some freshly pasteurized milk." He had a pipe in his mouth and a pistol with an assortment of knives on his belt. He looked at all of us. "Ah, you must be the leader." He pointed at me and immediately stuck out his hand. I nodded and shook it. "We received your community signal. How on earth do you have power?" Harry smiled and started to walk towards the road, and we all followed him. Sparky walked next to me as Harry started to tell us about Washington. "Well, you see, the importance of our society is the focus on survival and needs of the collective, rather than the individual. It's why we're a socialist state. We have a government for the people and truly by the people. And we're purely a farming and agrarian society. Sure, we have power, but it's only to make food. We need an alliance that will take food for protection, as we have an overabundance of it." Gordon immediately stepped up to talk with Harry. "We have 50,000 soldiers, but we're all the way down in California. How do you propose we go about an alliance? Also, how large is your population?" Harry smiled and handed Gordon a loaf of sourdough bread he got out of his backpack. "I would imagine it working like this. You take as much food as you need for your home, and you send soldiers up this way. How does that sound?" Gordon broke off a piece of bread for each of us, and I ate the crunchy yet soft bread and was in heaven. Andy then looked up at the Space Needle. That could be an outlook post. With the power fully back, plus your elevation, it would help with national security. If you hooked up a radar dish to the top of the needle, we could see up into Canada. Harry nodded at Andy's suggestion. "Good idea. I honestly hadn't thought of that." Then I immediately remembered the starving citizens of Portland. "Well, Harry, we actually just came from Portland, Oregon. They just got the power back and they desperately need food. So you should give them the food before us, then the entire West Coast could unite, not as one country, but as an alliance." We continued the walk towards Harry's house, which is a modest wooden house with some moss on the roof. He opened the door, and inside was a roaring fireplace that cracked and popped, with a stove that smelled of blueberry pie and a simple red refrigerator next to the gas stove. Wooden floors creaked and moaned, and the lights were on. Harry put his walking stick down near the door and put on oven mitts to take out the pie. He placed the pie on the counter and took out 4 glasses and a bowl for Sparky. He filled the bowl with water, and Sparky walked over towards Harry, who gave him a few pets and scratches behind the ears. Then Harry opened his fridge and poured us each a glass of milk. Then he walked over to the large oak table in his kitchen, placing 4 glasses down and handing us each one. "To civilization, eh, gentlemen?" We all clinked our glasses at Harry's toast. Then a little orange kitten walked into the kitchen, but only after playing with Sparky for a bit. Andy reached down to pet and pick up the cat. "Who's this little fella?" Harry smiled. "Oh, it's my kitten Cupid. He was born only a month ago, a child of the apocalypse." I nodded, and Sparky was also mine, child of the apocalypse. Gordon then looked inquisitive. "How much of Washington is farmland? And what is your population size? We might need to turn your citizens into the military, if that's okay." Harry nodded. "I can do that. There are about 10 million in Washington. I can spare 1 million for the Army, Air Force, and Navy. Is that enough?" Gordon nodded, and Andy looked up into the sky. "Harry, would it be possible to retrofit the Space Needle, like now? I'm just dying for a challenge." Gordon and I laughed, and Harry nodded his head as Andy rushed outside and back to the train. About 5 hours later, when the sun was starting to rise, Andy turned on the Space Needle, and a light spun around inside the tower, and the west coast could now fully tell when and if Atmos was approaching. He burst in through Harry's door and was smiling ear to ear. "It's done now. The 3 nation-states are protected. All is clear on the Western Front." He chuckled to himself as I rolled my eyes while Gordon and Harry napped. I pulled out a joint and we walked outside where the sun rose above the majestic pine trees, and I hugged Andy from the side. "Hey, you." I smiled and kissed him. "Hello, yourself." He hugged me back and kissed the top of my head. "We haven't had much time alone recently. I can't wait to get back home where it'll just be us." He squeezed and held me tighter as I melted under his touch. "We will soon enough. Now smoke. We have a long day ahead of us." We smiled and smoked under the rising sun.